Hello once again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Thank you for tuning in. This is number 87B, the answer portion of my What Is It Mystery Tool series. I hope you watched the first part so you know what I'm talking about here. But if you didn't, I'm going to identify these tools right now. Thank you for your answers. Many of you had them correct. Matter of fact, most people did, so I guess these were pretty easy, even the ones I thought were difficult. So let's get at it. Numbers 1 through 5. Alright, here's number 1, and several people had this correct. And thank you to Ray for sending me that. So this is an inside micrometer used to mic or measure drum brakes to see if they are still usable after they've been worn or cut down to a certain size. So it's nothing more than a big inside micrometer, and there is the graduations, and we can adjust it with our thumb. This point would go on one side of the drum and this the other, and you would read it down here. You know, some drum brakes actually had cast in there, something like this, the size limit when you had to discard the drum and it was too dangerous to turn down or to use again. Now if we look real closely here, it is marked, and I had that covered up, Shepherd Thompson M99D micrometer. Pretty neat tool. I'm not sure what this was for, other than maybe just to hold it up at a certain height from the back of the drum. Number 1. Almost everybody had number 2 correct, and it is a number S51 tool holder made by Armstrong, used for threading. And I have a smaller one of these that I've had for many years. There it is with the threading tool in it, 1/4 inch. This is the next size larger, although it also holds only 1/4 inch. I thought it was 5/16. So there's like a gooseneck here that can take up the chatter. These aren't used much anymore because people are using carbide inserts, but this can also be set at different angles like that. And both of these are missing a little screw that goes in where my thumb is, and the tip of it holds it right here in case you want to make it rigid and get rid of the flexing. Let me show you the original pictures out of the Armstrong catalog from the mid-60s. Number 3 is a complete set of Mayhew roll pin punches used both for installing and removing roll pins, spring pins, tension pins. And there are many advantages of using these over just a regular pin punch, and I believe I'll demonstrate that right now, but take a look closely at the end here. So there's a little bit of a protrusion there. Is that a word? Protrusion? Rounded off, that will fit right into the hollow end. That's the wrong size, the hollow end of the roll pin. Let's step over to the bench and drive and remove a pin, shall we? We're over at the bench vise now, and I drilled a 3/16 hole, and I drove a pin in there part ways. Now, some people say that they want to use this to drive the pin in, and you might want to. By the way, this is a 3/16 here, and that's a 3/16 hole and a 3/16 roll pin. But I just like to drive them in with either a steel hammer, or actually I prefer a brass hammer because it won't skate off on you. But really the neat part is using these to remove a roll pin, and let me demonstrate that right now. Okay, let's remove that pin. This will be pretty easy. See, that holds it in the center, so you don't bang up the work with your punch. And out it goes. Now the real beauty of this, which I'm going to explain right now, is that a 3/16 punch like this is actually a little bit undersized, because if you use a regular pin punch that's 3/16 such as this, it's going to get stuck in the hole. You'll remove the pin, but then it's a pouting disappointment because you have no way to remove the punch, which will, in a 3/16 hole, is going to stick in there, see, and annoy you endlessly. So that is the beauty of these Mayhew roll pin punches. Get yourself a set. I don't know how much they cost, but they wouldn't be cheap, and you won't find them at Kmart. You know what? I didn't think anyone would get this correct, but several people did. I had the answer masked off here on both sides. Remember, I only paid $1 or $2 for this, but what does it say on here? Johnson Lipovac, and there's the patent number, and I looked that up and I couldn't find anything, but this is to remove lard from your fat belly with liposuction. And on this side, I guess they're just numbers maybe telling you what size this is, but the whole idea here is if you don't have the willpower to lose weight, you just go to the Dr. Frankenstein and he cuts a little hole in your belly or your thighs or wherever they're going to use this, and they ram that in there, and then this is hooked up to a suction and a jar, and you got your little valve right here, and I've seen this done in videos, you know, they just stick it in there and they wiggle it around. It's just a horrible procedure. And I'm not sure if they still do this, because didn't they put Dr. Frankenstein out of business? But if you look on the end here, I was going to cut this off, maybe I should. There's another little tube right there. So I don't know if that's blowing air or sucking or what it does. And there's the little valve. And then all that cellulite lard goes into that huge mayonnaise jar, and it looks like whale blood. Well, they're rendering you is what they're doing. They have rendered you just like a whale. So all that blubber and lard goes into that mayonnaise jar, and it's all mixed up with blood, and it's a rather unsightly mess. Enough of that. And here's the answer to number 5, extra credit. Quite a few people got this. Certainly everybody in Wisconsin did. This is the Allen Bradley clock in Milwaukee. It is now the Rockwell automation clock, but originally this was Allen Bradley offices, and I don't know if they did manufacturing there or not, but for many, many years this was the largest 4-faced clock in the world. Now there's 1 or 2 others that are just as slightly bigger, but the tower itself is 280 feet high, and the face of the clock, octagonal again, is 40 foot, it's 4-sided, and the minute hand is 20 foot long and weighs 550 pounds. So it's quite a landmark, and I'm going to show you some more pictures here presently. In case you're not familiar with Allen Bradley products, their original logo was an octagon, just like what you're seeing in this picture. And by the way, the numbers there that you see are 4 foot high. At one time I worked at Monarch Electric in Peru, Illinois, and they were an Allen Bradley dealer. The sign that was hanging outside was an Allen Bradley sign, and I remember sweeping up in there was aisle after aisle of Allen Bradley switches and heaters and motor controls and all of the devices that they are so famous for. The clock is sometimes referred to as the Polish moon, because I believe that was a Polish neighborhood when this was built in the early 60s. And there is the reason they call it the Polish moon. Look at the stars up there. You can see this clock for many, many miles, including from Lake Michigan, although it's only a few miles, I believe, from Lake Michigan. But how far out you can see it or read it, I do not know, but it is quite an amazing clock. Now, if some of you people have a lot of machinery, look at all the switches and controls on them, and you might well see Allen Bradley, but it seems like Cutler hammer is more popular. But on this particular switch here, now somebody put the switch in backwards. This came from a garage sale, or they put it in upside down, but there is the Allen Bradley octagonal logo that was on virtually every one of their products for 90 years. Again, the Polish Moon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of What Is It? Be sure and tell your friends about this series. They might enjoy it.